As of the time recording this, the Unstable SMP has been going on for over 2 years, so it's no surprise that the Unstable SMP is no stranger to retcons. But what even is a retcon, you might ask? The general definition of retconning is the act of adjusting, ignoring, or contradicting something that has already been established narratively. I feel like I have to specify that retconning isn't necessarily bad, but it can cause a bit of confusion. With the definition of retcons out of the way, we can actually start talking about the retcons of the Unstable SMP. To start off light, let's talk about voice chat and slash message. In a lot of situations, the protagonists cannot communicate secretly to each other because of surrounding enemies being able to listen to the conversation or because they are too far away from each other. In earlier episodes of the Unstable SMP, they used things like voice chat and slash message to go around that, but in the newer episodes this has been mostly phased out. Last time this was used was in the 2 pros vs 1000 Minecraft players video.
You gonna leave the voice chat group or...
Oh, I forgot we were in the group.
But to my knowledge, slash message has been completely phased out since season 1. Now the most likely reason this would be phased out is because it's simply more interesting and more realistic for people to not be able to communicate in certain environments. After all, it would be kinda boring if there was no risk to it. But let's now move on to a more impactful thing they decided to retcon. The death messages. As you might know, in the Unstable SMP you can only see death messages that happen within your render distance, but this hasn't always been the case. Back in season 1, when the Mafia was still around, the way that they would kill any member who lost their invisibility was to teleport them under the void, and the place where they were teleported was millions of blocks away from spawn, so they would definitely be out of your render distance, but the protagonists were still able to see the death messages of those people. I honestly think it was a really good idea for them to retcon this, because this would allow for things like stealth kills, which would make things a lot more interesting. This would also make more sense because otherwise the chat would always be filled with death messages. So overall I think this is probably for the best. But now let's move on to the last and most important retcon of this video. Back when Parrot was still around, Parrot stated that it was basically impossible to get back into the server if you leave it because it was just too full.
And since players don't log out on this server because it's nearly impossible to get back in with how many people are online, we would have to take shifts to watch the base overnight.
Now the reason I know for a fact this has been retconned is because we actually see players join the server, but that obviously wouldn't be possible if the server was full. Now this sadly also raises a pretty big plot hole, which is why wouldn't players just log off when they want to go AFK? Now obviously leaving the server leaves you vulnerable, but just standing there doing nothing is definitely a bigger risk, and that's not even talking about combat logging. Now after we went over all those retcons, I want to kind of predict what might be the next retcon in the Unstable SMP. I think the most likely thing to be retconned is Marlow, or maybe even the entire Tomb of the Mafia. Now for the people who don't know, after Parrot found the Tomb of the Mafia, he started trying to get into it. And after he did, he found that there was a person guarding the tomb called Marlow. And he also found out that if anyone takes any items from the tomb, thousands of players will die because of an ender pearl stasis chamber system. So he decided to leave the vault as to not kill innocent players. Now the reason this would most likely get retconned is because Marlow, the guardian of the vault, actually got exposed for cheating and got into a lot of controversy. I won't go into detail about the situation because it got pretty convoluted, but the Unstable crew would most likely not want to be involved in such controversy. I can't be sure if this will cause Marlow to get retconned or maybe even the entire Tomb of the Mafia, but I doubt that Marlow will be featured in any future episodes. So considering this video turned out to be this short, I decided to add in a little extra yap section. So by the time I'm recording this now, my video has 2,500 views, which is pretty cool, but what I didn't expect is for so many kids to be crying in my comments. I guess I should have expected this because, as I said, there are a lot of kids in the Unstable community. Obviously I am exaggerating a little bit because most of the comments were actually really positive. I did actually reply to a lot of the negative comments on my video because the more the comments there are on the video, the more likely to reach the negative algorithms. I don't think these little kids actually know that, because if they did, probably wouldn't comment on my video, probably just like ignore it instantly. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the negative comments did kinda motivate me to make more videos. Also, I kinda started this channel because all the other Unstable creators were just talking about the same 3 things all the time, and they were never really saying anything new. They always either talk about the Farlands or the Underworld, or about how one of the protagonists is actually evil. And I've also never seen someone from within the Unstable fanbase ever criticize the series, which is the reason why I made my last video. I don't really have much else to say. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you guys have anything for me to talk about next, just share it in the comments below.